Coming up on Arirang News, Americans go to the polls in a historic and hotly contested presidential election. Voting's officially begun to choose a new Congress and to decide the race between President Trump and Democratic candidate Joe Biden. The South Korean government prepares to give out coupons starting Wednesday for accommodation across the country to encourage people to get out and spend money to support the economy. And consumer inflation last month in South Korea was just barely above zero at 0.1%, the lowest it's been in months. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. Voting has officially begun in this year's election in the U.S. Americans choosing between President Trump and his Democratic challenger, Joe Biden. The House of Representatives and a third of the Senate also up for grabs. The first to vote on Tuesday, November 3rd, were two tiny towns in New Hampshire that have a tradition of casting all their ballots just after midnight on Election Day. Biden won all 5 votes in the town of Dixville Notch, while Trump got a supermajority of the 21 votes in Millsfield. The process is different in each state, so voting on Tuesday will start as early as 5 a.m. and end as late as 9 p.m. across the country. That means it'll be over by Wednesday afternoon Korea time, by which point there could be a result, but if not, the result could take several days longer while they count mail-in ballots. More than 99 million people have already cast their ballots in early voting, which is more than 2/3 of the total number of ballots cast in the 2016 election. South Korea reported fewer than 100 new cases of COVID-19 today for a second day in a row. There continue to be cluster infections at nursing homes and hospitals, so the government's going to do preemptive testing at those facilities. And to help the economy, the government's giving out more coupons for hotels and other accommodation. Ji-young has more.
The Central Disease Control Headquarters said Tuesday that South Korea had 75 new COVID-19 cases, down 22 from Monday. Although the number of cases has been under 100 for 2 consecutive days, health authorities are staying alert as cluster infections are still popping up at nursing homes and long-term care hospitals. To curb further spread at those facilities, Vice Head 1 of the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters, Bang Neung-woo, said on Tuesday that the government will conduct preemptive tests for all people and staff at such facilities nationwide. He added that by conducting preemptive tests at several nursing homes and long-term care hospitals since mid-October, the government was able to detect 22 coronavirus cases, stopping them from leading to mass infections. Health authorities also on Tuesday asked people not to gather in large groups, as such gatherings have led to recent cluster infections.
Despite virus prevention advisories, several gatherings of more than 100 people indoors were reported.
While curbing the spread, the government is also going all out to boost spending by resuming its discount coupon program that was put on hold due to the surge in infections in August. From 10 a.m. Wednesday, it'll start issuing 1 million coupons giving discounts for accommodation. People can book online and get a discount of 30,000 won, around $27 on accommodation that costs 70,000 won or less. They can get a discount of 40,000 won, around $35 on accommodation costing more than 70,000 won. Each person can use only 1 coupon, and the discount will be for those who will use the lodging facilities between November 4th and December 23rd. Ji-young, Arirang News.
South Korea's consumer inflation last month was just barely above zero. It was low already, but it came down in part because the government paid a one-time subsidy to lower people's phone bills. Kim Sung-min has the details.
South Korea's consumer inflation was barely above zero last month, largely pulled down by the government's assistance for phone bills. According to Statistics Korea on Tuesday, last month's consumer price index edged up 0.1% from the previous year. That is the slowest growth since June, when inflation remained flat. Statistics Korea said the government's recent subsidies of around $18 for many mobile phone users caused phone bills to drop by 21.7% on year, pulling down the overall inflation. This also led the core inflation, which excludes food and energy prices, to drop by 0.3%, its biggest fall since 1999. The price of services dropped by 0.8%, largely due to the phone bill assistance, but goods prices were up 1.3% on year, mainly due to agricultural goods. Agriculture, livestock, and fishery product prices rose 13.3%, with vegetable prices surging more than 20%. The pandemic has also kept the demand for home meals high last month, which led to prices for food and drink to rise by 8.2%. With the plummeting global oil prices, however, industrial product prices were down 1%. The cost of rent increased by 0.5%, its biggest rise since 2018, with both monthly rent and key money deposits seeing a surge. Kim Sung-min, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good to have you back on.
Good to be here.
Well, investors anxious a day ahead of the U.S. election, of course, but stocks on Wall Street recovering a bit from the rout last week. Also, of course, eyes on the coronavirus situation. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, luckily, if you look at the U.S. market, it did recover on Monday. If you look at Dow Jones, it was up 1.6%. S&P 500 was up 1.2%. And NASDAQ kind of slightly declined at the beginning of the session, but did recover, and it was up by about 0.4%. Clearly, people are still watching over for the election results. We have to wait for another 2 days after we actually get some kind of results. And also, we're watching over the COVID-19 additional new cases. Clearly, the numbers are hitting at record high level. Globally, 560,000 plus get infected, and clearly this is creating the second wave of the COVID-19 incident. If this results into some kind of lockdown, then economic growth rate could slow down in the fourth quarter. That would be the concern at this point in time. However, though, we think that the lockdown, the level of lockdown is not going to be that significant. So more importantly, what's going to be the results of the presidential election is the key. And hopefully we'll get some kind of result by next 2 days, unless if Trump loses and Trump goes for the Supreme Court for the decision, then uncertainty could last for another couple of months, and that could be quite troublesome. In any case, at this time, volatility is there, and we have to use that volatility to find good stock to invest at the current point in time.
Well, now here in Korea, the Kospi and the Kosdaq both strongly higher today, seeming to track those gains on Wall Street. What was happening here in Seoul?
Yes, because of U.S. market's been quite strong yesterday, Korean market recovered quite nicely. If you look at both indices, Kospi was up close to 2%. Kosdaq was up also close to 2%. Clearly, this is a good signal. Of course, the U.S. recovering is a good thing that resulted into this recovery. But in addition to this, people are expecting that the capital gains taxes, the regulation might not change within this year. And if that's the case, then there's no reason for a lot of the investors to sell the stocks before the end of the year. If that happens, then we think that the actual liquidity condition could be quite ample enough to push up the Kospi index as well as Korean equity market. If you look at the valuations and fundamentals, clearly Korea is better than most of other countries because they have done better job in terms of tackling the COVID-19 incident, and economic growth rate is going down, but at much slower pace, and the valuation looks very cheap for Korea at this point in time.
And as we just heard a minute ago, consumer prices in Korea last month rose by only 0.1%. This is the smallest rise since June. What do you see happening with inflation?
Right. As you said, South Korea's consumer price index increased by only 0.1% year on year in October, followed by 1% gain in the previous month. Market expectation was 0.7% year-on-year gain, but actually it came in much lower than expected. It is the lowest inflation in the 4-month period Compared to previous year, electricity, water, gas, industrial products, and services all declined, but agricultural and livestock products rose slightly. Overall, we think that the economic condition is reasonably okay to create some kind of inflation, but it's not going to be that significant given the fact that global economy is still YOY declining trend. I think the inflation will come back probably sometime in next quarter, probably 2021. If that happens, then interest rate could rise in the future. But for the time being, Korea's 10 years bond rates remains at 1.5% level. We don't think that that's going to change much, and inflation is not going to be going up too fast in order for that interest rate to go up in the future. So stable interest rate environment does create a better financial market at the current point in time, and that could be positive news for the Korean equity market.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for today and catch up later this week when we should know a lot more about the U.S. election situation. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. Excellent.
President Moon Jae-in says the world needs to respond to the climate crises by moving toward carbon neutrality. And South Korea should be part of this movement as a member of the global community. Speaking in a cabinet meeting Tuesday, he said the country needs to prepare calmly and with a cool head, making full-fledged efforts to reduce greenhouse gases.
화석연료 중심의 에너지를 친환경 재생에너지로 전환하는 에너지 전환 로드맵을 정교하게 가다듬으면서 온실가스 감축 계획도 재점검해 주시기 바랍니다.
In a budget speech at the National Assembly last week, Moon said that South Korea will work to be carbon neutral by 2050. The president noted that it's not an easy task, given the country's heavy reliance on fossil fuels. However, Moon said that it must be done in order to respond to climate change and maintain economic growth. Virtual reality, decades in the making, is now a fixture of modern video games. But now putting these technologies to more practical uses in business and science, Microsoft has introduced a system called mixed reality. You can interact with and manipulate the images that appear around you, and it's available now in Korea. Kim Bo-kyung reports.
What would it be like if you could see three-dimensional digital objects just by wearing a pair of glasses? This technology is called mixed reality. It merges the real and virtual worlds together so that both physical and holographic objects can be seen. Microsoft came up with the HoloLens and recently introduced its latest model to South Korea.
HoloLens is an AI-equipped device for enterprise which enables innovation in productivity as well as efficiency by displaying three-dimensional holograms in the real world.
The HoloLens offers an immersive mixed reality experience. Its distinguishing feature is that it can recognize the user's hand movements perfectly, unlike other VR and AR technologies.
When users wear the device, it starts space mapping to display the holographic contents in their correct place. With instinctual motion group technology, users can touch, grasp, and move three-dimensional holograms in a way that feels natural and like real objects. VR and AR technologies are consumer-oriented, but this mixed reality device is being used in a variety of industries such as manufacturing and healthcare.
So remote assistant is something remote manager supporting to the real field person using the 3D technology and hologram. So more convenient and more efficient task management and training side, and the HoloLens will be giving more clear guide to the employee. So how to work and how to use it.
And this expert says that the boundaries of how it can be utilized could be expanded even further, with lots of companies becoming more and more interested in combining their work systems with virtual reality technologies. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And the children's song Baby Shark, made by the South Korean educational brand Pinkfong, has become YouTube's most viewed video of all time. As of Monday night, the video had more than 7 billion views. The song reached the top spot 4 years after it was uploaded in 2016, overtaking the music video for the song Despacito. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.